Flawedcast number 60, the Nuremberg Code. Those who can make you believe absurdities can make you commit atrocities. Voltaire.
Walter.
Damn it.
Flawedcast. Flawedcast. Get in the arena.
Woo! America.
What's up, Will?
Good morning, Jason.
Hey, man, have you seen Crazy Man around? Is he back? Do you know? Well, hey. I guess he's back.
Hey, I'm back.
Way to make an entrance.
I'm back. And I brought my sound box with me.
That's what we missed last episode. The aliens blocked the sound
There was
bites.
some interference.
At any rate, so we want to welcome everyone to another fun-filled episode of Flawedcast. At the top, you may have noticed something a little different, something a little new, a new addition. And that is our new theme song. Custom-made theme song. As a matter of fact, I like it so much, I think we should play it again right here.
All right, let's do it.
Let's set it up.
Nice. So we want to thank our buddy Dave, a.k.a. Tilson,
A.K.A. DT,
a.k.a. Dave Tilson.
A.K.A. Banff.
AKA plays guitar better than Johnny.
He did that whole thing himself. Like, everything on that is him.
He is a super, super talented musician. He actually did music for a previous podcast I was on, The Rock Office. I love this a lot better, but he has some good music out there. Check him out. He's going to be mad I said this, but check his music out on Spotify. I know it, Elite Beats, ILLETE on Spotify, wherever you can stream music. He's super, super talented, and he's trying to make this his profession. So if you host a podcast, if you do commercials, if you are in need of someone to do custom music for you, hit Mr. Tilson up, and I know he's going to be able to superbly give you assistance with this.
I would describe him as
Tony, your money.
Pretty much, yeah.
Money.
Yeah, so once again, Dave, thank you. We all uniformly love it.
Thank you very much.
Super,
Mr. Dave.
super good.
obviously I was gone last week, but
Carl graciously...
I do have to say
Yeah, those aliens sure did a number on you, didn't they?
Anyway, so we want to thank everybody. We're doing really, really well on Rumble.
Rumble Big Tuna.
On the new platform.
Ready to rumble.
We've been on Rumble for 2 weeks, and already we have almost half of the subscribers on Rumble that we do on YouTube. So that's...
Can't believe we got to 5,000 followers on Rumble that fast.
I guess people like free speech.
Well, you know what? It's going to double when they hear Dave.
I definitely think that's the case. So nonetheless, want to thank everybody for listening, for subscribing, for sharing. Like I said, we are on Rumble. Please subscribe. You can still, for now, hear us on YouTube. Make sure you ring the bell. We are also everywhere you can listen to podcasts, on Apple, Spotify, wherever else you listen to podcasts. But before we get into anything too heavy, which I think this episode might be, we are, as our custom, going to do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Right hand over your left heart.
Left heart.
All right. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Indivisible. Well, that's a word that kind of rings out. I don't know how I'm saying that. Indivisible, folks.
Under God.
Under God. More God. Indivisible. Are we indivisible, Sir Willie Will?
So this week we're going to be...
Well, you're just, all of a sudden, you're just twitching in your seat over there.
It's funny because a couple of comments we got about the last episode is obviously Carl visited and he made a very moving segment about needing unity. And I really thought about a lot of what he said and
totally disregarded it.
No, I didn't disregard it. I struggle with it because there's a lot of people I would think would have a lot of commonality, but when it boils down to it, and this is where I struggle with, I wouldn't trust these people to be in a foxhole with me. And that, just being frank, the reality of it is that there's certain things that I feel very, very convicted of, where a lot of people acquiesce and they don't. And I just don't know personally that I can trust those kind of people and moving forward in the days we may be moving forward into. So I don't know. I really wrestle with it. I'm glad that he brought that up. A lot of people, when they commented on the episode, they said that that was very poignant thing that Carl brought up. So I don't know. But this episode is one that I realized the inadequacy of the material and the preparation, because this is one of these things where I am not an expert in any stretch of the imagination in this. You want to talk about history, you want to talk about, things like that. That's my lane. Feel very comfortable. When we're getting into this, not so much. So anything I've done and prepared has been on a very layman, my very, very rudimentary understanding of science. But we're going to get into the Nuremberg Code. We're going to talk about the Hippocratic Oath, and we're going to talk about these new vaccines. And this is going to be a hot topic.
Evil, like it's the fruit of the devil. Evil.
Pretty much. But I know there's a lot of controversy. We have some articles, want to talk about it, maybe share our personal thoughts. I know maybe we all vary on this. I don't know. But I want to get into the basic principle of my understanding of medical procedures of practicing medicine from the point right after World War II, something called the Nuremberg Code. For anybody who's even a remote student of history, there's a guy named Joseph Mengele. There was a thing called Operation Paperclip the Nazis were heavily involved in. And basically it was medical torture of the Jewish people, and it was horrific. And I'm not going to get into that. Maybe that's an episode down the road. But the Nuremberg Code is kind of what came out of this to try to help and protect reasonable practices of medicine. So which one of you two want to read this?
No, I'm jumping. I'm just jumping right in. I'm fired up today.
Get on that horse and ride. All toked up on coffee beans. Let's do this.
All right, so what's the Nuremberg Code? So Bill has mentioned some things here. It's at the end of World War II, and the Allied powers enacted the International Military Tribunal. As part of the tribunal, a series of trials were held against major war criminals and Nazi sympathizers holding leadership positions. So the first trial conducted under the Nuremberg Military Tribunals in 1947 became known as the Doctor's Trial, in which 23 physicians from the German Nazi Party were tried for crimes against humanity for the atrocious experiments they carried out on unwilling prisoners of war. Many of the grotesque medical experiments took place at the Auschwitz concentration camp, where Jewish prisoners were tattooed with dehumanizing numbers onto their arms, numbers that would later be used to identify their bodies after death. Of the 23 defendants, 16 were found guilty, of which 7 received death sentences and 9 received prison sentences ranging from 10 years to life imprisonment. The other 7 defendants were acquitted. The verdict also resulted in the creation of the Nuremberg Code, a set of 10 ethical principles for human experimentation.
Once again, Auschwitz is synonymous with a lot of these horrendous things. If you get a moment, Dr. Joseph Mengele was the gentleman's name, Operation Paperclip, look it up. But that's the basic history of the Nuremberg Code. Now there were 10 principles that were laid out that moving forward in connection with practicing medicine, ethically practicing medicine, these 10 codes, if you will.
Yeah, the elements of a code.
The elements of a code are, I should say, to be employed. So, Jason, go ahead and read the 10 codes if you don't mind.
The 10 codes are: 1. Voluntary consent is essential. 2. The results of any experiment must be for the greater good of society. 3. Human experiments should be based on previous animal experimentation. 4. Experiments should be conducted by avoiding physical, mental suffering, and injury. 5. No experiments should be conducted if it is believed to cause death or disability. 6. The risks should never exceed the benefits. 7. Adequate facilities should be used to protect subjects. 8. Experiments should be conducted only by qualified scientists. 9. Subjects should be able to end their participation at any time. 10. The scientists in charge must be prepared to terminate the experiment when injury, disability, or death is likely to occur. So how many of these are we violating right now?
There's a few that made me laugh.
Not that we follow rules or laws or God anymore anyway.
Should be able to end their participation at any point in time. Might be coming up real soon.
Voluntary consent?
Voluntary consent?
Based on previous animal experimentation?
Do you have like a safe word if you're in there and they're doing something that's like, pineapple, I'm out, pineapple?
The risk should never exceed the benefits.
Yeah.
So I think I read something this morning. I don't mean to jump ahead, but the majority of people, unless you fall into a certain class, which is basically older people or folks who have compromised immune systems.
Immunocompromised.
the chances of beating COVID are over 99%. And vaccines that we have no idea if they work or not have already been said that they're 95% effective. That makes a whole lot of sense to me.
You know, they're worse than a condom.
We're going to get into this.
I know.
Go ahead and hit that last part.
The significance of the Nuremberg Code. The Nuremberg Code is one of several foundational documents that influence the principle of good clinical practice, also known as GCP. Good clinical practice is an attitude of excellence in research that provides a standard for study design, implementation, conduct, and analysis. More than a single document, it is a compilation of many thoughts, ideas, and lessons learned throughout the history of clinical research worldwide. Although there has been updated guidance to good clinical practices to reflect new trends and technologies such as electronic signatures, these basic principles remain the same. The goal has always been, and always will be, to conduct ethical clinical trials and protect humans.
Okay, so this is important to keep in mind, like Jason was just talking about, and we're going to get into here in a moment. Okay, so this next portion is called the Hippocratic Oath. Johnny, I want you to read this, and this is important because this is the ethical oath that doctors, physicians take as part of the, their licensing.
Part of their practice.
Exactly.
Yes.
And there's a reason that we're going over the Nuremberg Code, and there's a reason we're going over the Hippocratic Oath.
The Hippocratic Oath. I swear to fulfill to the best of my ability and judgment this covenant. I will respect the hard-won scientific gains of those physicians in whose steps I walk, and gladly share such knowledge as is mine with those who are to follow. I will apply, for the benefit of the sick, all measures which are required, avoiding those twin traps and overtreatment and therapeutic nihilism. I will remember that there is an art to medicine as well as science, and that warmth, sympathy, and understanding may outweigh the surgeon's knife or the chemist's drug. I feel like we probably should say that one more time, just to let that sink in. I will remember that there is an art to medicine as well as science, and that warmth, sympathy, and understanding may outweigh the surgeon's knife or the chemist's drug. I will not be ashamed to say, I know not, nor will I fail to call in my colleagues when the skills of another are needed for that patient's recovery. I will respect the privacy of my patients, for their problems are not disclosed to me that the world may know them. Most especially must I tread with care in matters of life and death. If it is given to me to save a life, all thanks. But it may also be within my power to take a life. This awesome responsibility must be faced with great humbleness and awareness of my own frailty. Above all, I must not play at God. I will remember that I do not treat a fever chart, a cancerous growth, but a sick human being whose illnesses may affect the person's family and economic stability. My responsibility includes these related problems. If I am to care adequately for the sick, I will do this. Prevent disease whenever I can, for prevention is preferable to cure. I will remember that I remain a member of society with special obligations to all my fellow human beings, those sound of mind and body as well as the infirm. If I do not violate this oath, may I enjoy life and art, respected while I live and remembered with the affection thereafter. May I always act so as to preserve the finest traditions of my calling, and may I long experience the joy of healing those who seek my help.
To me, those echo a common theme, which is treating life, treating humans with dignity, and knowing that the problems or what they are facing are not what you are doing. You are preserving a human's life. You are respecting the human's life above all things.
Where the hell's Patch Adams when you need him?
That's right. So that leads me to kind of conversations I've been having lately, and quite frankly, the somberness I've been feeling about this unabated excitement about these vaccines. It is inexplicable to me why there is such a rush to take something into your body, which in my opinion has not been properly vetted, and in my opinion, and just the limited research we've done, should frighten people. Even I would say the most progressive leaning type person should take pause. These mRNA vaccines, to me, a lot of this coincides with that Revelation 13 thing, an absolute dangerous, uncharted territory that we are walking ourselves into.
So, Bill, we were talking about this prior to the show, and...
Warning! Warning!
Going down for the sick. Sound off. Yeah.
I was saying the same thing, right? I was saying I don't understand how you ignore the facts. Then it hit me. That's everything going on right now. Everything is about ignoring the facts right now. And what I mean by ignoring the facts, I want to throw out what I think are two of the biggest facts that should create some pause. The first fact is they've attempted to make vaccines for the COVID strands. And have they had any success? No, they haven't. And they've been doing that for years. But yet, for COVID-19, in just 11 months or less, they have created a vaccine for this virus. What is the fastest a vaccine's ever been created before this?
The fastest in my research I found was like 2.5 years. years.
And it didn't work, by the way.
Well, no, and well, even like the flu vaccine, people either generally get super, super sick, or they get sick as a side effect of the vaccine, or they still end up getting the flu. In most circumstances, because it's guess. It's like John says to me all the time, he goes, you practice medicine. It's art form, if you will. It's nothing that is perfected.
Think about a baseball player. He's in a batter's box, and the pitcher is throwing the pitch, right? Who has the advantage? The pitcher or the batter?
The umpire.
The pitcher. Why? Because he knows what's going to happen. And this is the thing. In professional baseball, those pitches come in somewhere between 80 and 90 miles an hour. So you've got to make a split-second decision, okay? Now, there's a reason that some of the best players in baseball bat 300. 300, folks, is 30%. That's some of the best, okay? If you bat into 300s, you're one of the best. No one's batted into 400s since, like, Ted Williams. Like, 40% is God-esque in baseball, okay? It's that good. So they have to guess what's coming. And this is the thing. They know the 3 pitches that other pitcher throws. So they got a 33% chance of guessing which pitch is coming. Plus, they've got the experience and everything else of batting in the majors, right? They've done their research. They do video and everything and film and watch the pitchers and study and have coaches that help do that and tell you what might be coming and what to watch for.
They're called batting coaches.
Batting coaches. Good job, Bill. And yet, the average baseball professional
is less than a third.
Is more like a quarter, 25% of the time. Think about that.
No, that's a great analogy. I'm glad that you brought that up.
Well, I brought it up because of the flu thing, and I want to tie it right to that. When they put out the flu shot every year, and they call it the flu shot instead of the flu vaccine because it's not a vaccine for the flu, because there's how many different strands of the flu? They literally guess and say,
which 5 or 6
these are the 5 or 6 strands that we think are going to be out this year, and we're going to give you a shot that could, there's a percentage of a chance that could help you not get that.
Well, I'll tell you what, I've taken some shots with you that I think would kill any disease.
Well, there's a reason I don't get sick. A gallon a day keeps the doctors away. That's what I always say.
And I'm glad you said that. And this is why, because I have to try to break this down that people can take this information, easily digest it, and then apply it. Let's go into this first article because this one really upset me.
All right. The dark truth about the COVID vaccine that even Fauci admits. The Western Journal, December 8th, 2020. These days, it seems like every other headline is about the pending coronavirus vaccine. Many, especially on the left, seem to believe the vaccine will be a kind of holy grail that will allow us to return to some semblance of normal. Unfortunately, even with the vaccine, it doesn't appear normal will be returning anytime soon. The vaccine might keep you from getting a particularly bad case of the coronavirus, but no one knows yet whether it will actually affect the virus spread. Dr. Anthony Fauci appeared on CNN's New Day, where he admitted it will take time to determine whether symptomless vaccine takers could still infect others. Well, that's possible, Fauci, director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease, said. We're going to know the answer to that as we follow people out longer. According to the New York Times, trials by the makers of the vaccine, Pfizer and Moderna, only tracked whether vaccinated individuals became sick. The trials did not track whether vaccinated people caught the virus without developing symptoms and whether those asymptomatic carriers might spread the virus through their communities. This is a pretty dark truth. It means the vaccine may not even be able to help stop the spread. The vaccine might keep people from getting as sick as they would without it, but the vast majority of those who contract the disease already survive without a vaccine, and those who don't are overwhelmingly elderly or at high risk due to comorbidities. However, the biggest concern regarding a return to normalcy is community spread, and there's no way to know at this point whether the vaccine reduces community spread. In other words, it looks like mask and social distancing are here to stay, even after vaccination. Why let something like a vaccine come along and take away the need for so much government intervention in the average American's everyday life? At least they're finally admitting this won't be over anytime soon.
Once again, I feel like this is one of the reasons I rail so hard against the mask. It does nothing. We're now learning from Dr. Fauci, who apparently people, and even people who were quote-unquote good Christian people, they trust Fauci's word more than they trust the word of Jesus Christ, because whatever this guy says goes. And quite frankly, this guy is telling you can get these vaccines. You're still going to have to wear a mask. You're still going to have to social distance because we have no hard data, Jason, that says this is effective in any way, shape, or form.
Listen, man, this...
Hold on a second. Johnny, get your duct tape ready.
Ready.
He's got that look.
Get the duct tape going.
Here comes the duct tape, folks.
Get it. You need...
Oh, I missed it. All right.
Folks, facts. Factual data. Feelings are great. Feelings are data as well, and they're great, but they're not facts, okay? The facts are this. This vaccine, first of all, isn't a vaccine, so I don't know why they're calling it a vaccine. It's just like the flu shot. It's not vaccinating you from getting COVID. There's no proof of that. It's what we just read to you. It's like taking ibuprofen for a headache kind of thing. So that's first of all. Second of all, 99% of the population already has that, right? Their immune systems already beats this, right? But yet everyone needs to get it. Not just those high risk, but everyone needs to get it for some reason, which, again, voluntary voluntary. So let's go back to the Nuremberg
Code, the Hippocratic Oath. There you go. Exactly. So this is where we're going.
So the other thing that really scares me that never hit me until today, breaking news. You know, we talk about the mark of the beast and how they want to mark you, that you have to either take it or not take it. What if the mark of the beast, what if they are actually in this vaccine when they inject you in it has a marker in it? You know what I'm saying?
Well, the mRNA vaccine, it was a couple of things we do know. A, there is nanotechnology in it that is tracking to whatever degree. Secondly, it does alter the genome strands in our DNA. Now, quite frankly, I don't know how any of that works, and don't ask me. I don't know. I'm just regurgitating information. What I'm telling you is from my limited understanding of this stuff, it very well could be that. Especially what concerns me is when you have people saying you're not going to be able to travel, you're not going to be able to go to work, you're not going to be able to do A, B, and C unless you have that. Like I said previously, it lines up with that Revelation 13 mark of the beast system. You know, the Bible talks about having something on your hand or your forehead. I don't know at this point. To me, it isn't it. It's probably a precursor, but I definitely think there's some preconditioning that's going on now.
So I'm not saying it's not real. What I'm saying is 99% of the people out there that don't have high risk, and we already know we know for sure what those high risk factors are. 99% of them, their immune system beats this. Yes, you're going to get sick. You can't stop people from getting sick. We're not going to stop the flu. We're not going to stop strep throat. We're not going to stop pneumonia. We're not going to stop bronchitis. You know, we can't stop cancer. It kills 600,000 Americans a year. So let's don't be fools here. What we need to do is say, just like we do about cancer. With cancer, we say, oh, that's a carcinogen. That may cause cancer. Don't smoke. That may cause cancer. Don't do this. That may cause cancer. If you do everything right, it still doesn't mean you're not going to get cancer, right? You still could, and you can still smoke and not get cancer. But we know that there's certain things that promote cancer in the majority of people. So we call those carcinogens, and we say, let's stay away from that. Or we put laws in that say, you know, no smoking in public anymore because secondhand smoke doesn't. And that's fair. And was voted on. It was great. But what we do is we identify where the risks are, and we focus on those risks. Why are we not doing that with this? That's my big question. We know what the risks are. We know who's at risk with this.
Well,
and instead of just trying to figure out how to keep them safe, the reality is this. Everyone in this room on this podcast believes it's a real virus.
Yes.
We believe that it really impacts some people and it will kill people.
No, it was created in a D4. Yeah, absolutely. It was created in a D4 facility by the Obama administration.
But the reality is it's real.
Right.
It's real. It will kill you.
It's like that damn monkey from Outbreak.
It will kill you on a pretty high percent for mortality rate from viruses if you fall into the risk category. It will kill you if you're one of the unlucky ones that don't fall in that category. Just like all other things, right? And I'm not saying it's okay, folks, but we haven't shut down the world and gave everyone injections because of the flu. You get the choice to take a flu shot or not.
No, and you're bringing up great points. In order to herd the cats and move this along, we're going to hit this. Got a couple different articles about this because to me, this point is more horrendous than the point Jason just read with the article. Johnny, go ahead and read these.
Australian COVID vaccine terminated due to HIV false positives. $1 billion deal for the Morrison government to buy more than 50 million doses of the University of Queensland's potential coronavirus vaccine has been abruptly terminated after several trial participants returned false positive HIV test results. UQ, working in partnership with Australian global biotech company CSL, will abandon its current clinical trials following the discovery. It informed the federal government of the initial data on Monday, which was then referred to the health authorities for urgent medical advice. Sources with knowledge of the current trials say pathology test had in past weeks confirmed the positives were in fact false and that the health of the participants had not been put at risk. Prime Minister Scott Morrison said the National Security Committee of Cabinet agreed to terminate the purchasing agreements on Thursday following expert health advice and fears the revelation would severely damage the Australian public's confidence in the COVID-19 vaccination program, which is expected to begin early next year. The UQ vaccine candidates used a protein and adjuvant platform containing the COVID-19 spike protein and a molecular clamp. A small component is derived from the human immunodeficiency virus known as HIV that is not able to infect people or replicate. A source with knowledge of the clinical results said although the HIV protein fragment posed absolutely no, and I repeat, no health risk to people, they had identified that some trial participants who received the vaccine produced a partial antibody response to it. The partial antibody response had the potential to interfere with some HIV screening tests that look for the antibodies, leading to a false positive test result. It is unclear how long participants would continue to return the false positive results. Unclear. It's unclear at this point. The source said, although all participants had been told there was a remote possibility HIV markers could be found in tests during the trial, medical researchers had not expected it to occur. This is another source citing the same story. Australia cancels COVID vaccine trial over unexpected false positives for HIV. The Australian government has cancelled further development of the COVID-19 vaccine after several trial participants had false positive tests for HIV. The vaccine was being developed by the University of Queensland, while Australia biotech company CSL Limited had been under contract to provide 51 million doses. The vaccine had been on schedule for mid-2021, with Phase 2 and 3 clinical trials due to commence in December. On Friday, however, Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison announced that the University of Queensland vaccine will not be able to produce based on the scientific advice that it will no longer feature as part of Australia's vaccine plan, adding, "I think the decision we've made today should give Australians great assurance that we are proceeding carefully. We are moving swiftly, but not with any undue haste here. Our processes will not be compromised. At the end of the day, the Therapeutic Goods Administration, like with any vaccine in Australia, must give their tick off without the tick. There's no jab when it comes to vaccines in this country. That is true for the COVID-19 vaccine, as it is true for any other vaccine that is administered here in Australia." All right.
I just want to give a shout out to our Australian listeners. We are watching and praying for what you guys are going through down there. And Johnny, I want you to read this one last one because listen, I know how far-fetched this sounds. Okay, trust me. So I wanted to get a couple different sources reporting the same thing so that when those people come to me and say conspiracy theory, listen, take it up with these sources too.
Alrighty. Coronavirus far more likely than SARS to bond to human cells due to the HIV-like mutation, scientists say. Research by a team from Nankai University shows new virus has mutated genes similar to those found in HIV and Ebola.
And Ebola.
If HIV wasn't bad enough for you, we got Ebola too. All right. It's a twofer. Findings may help scientists understand how the infection spreads and where it came from. The new coronavirus has an HIV-like mutation that means its ability to bind with human cells could be up to 1,000 times as strong as the SARS virus. According to new research by scientists in China, and Europe, the discovery could help to explain not only how the infection has spread, but also where it came from and how best to fight it. Scientists show that SARS, which is also known as severe acute respiratory syndrome, enter the human body by binding with a receptor protein called ACE2 on a cell membrane. And some early studies suggested that the new coronavirus, which shares about 80% of the genetic structure of SARS, might follow a similar path. But the ACE2 protein does not exist in large quantities in healthy people, and this partly helped to limit the scale of the SARS outbreak in 2002 and 2003, in which it infected about 8,000 people all around the world. Other highly contagious viruses, including HIV and Ebola, target an enzyme called furin, which works as a protein activator in the human body. Many proteins are inactive or dormant when they are produced and have to be cut at specific points to activate their various functions. When looking at the genome sequence of the new coronavirus, Professor Ron Jishao, I apologize if I'm butchering your name, sir, not that I care, and his team at Nankai University in Taiwan found a section of the mutated genes that did not exist in SARS but were similar to those found in HIV and Ebola. This finding suggests that 2019 nCoV with the new coronavirus may be significantly different from the SARS coronavirus in the infection pathway. The scientists said in a paper published this month, a platform used by the Chinese Academy of Sciences to release scientific research papers before they have been peer-reviewed. This virus may be using the packing mechanisms of other viruses, such as HIV. According to the study, the mutation can generate a structure known as a cleavage site in the new coronavirus spike protein. The virus uses the outreaching spike protein to hook onto the host cell, but normally this protein is inactive. The cleavage site structure's job is to trick the human furin protein so that it will cut and activate the spike protein and cause a direct fusion of the viral and cellular membranes. Compared to the SARS way of entry, this binding method is 100 to 1,000 times as efficient. It's kind of seems like a vast different 100 to 1,000, somewhere in there, as efficient according to the study. In a follow-up study, a research team led by Professor Li Hua from Huasong University of Science and Technology in Wuhan, Hubei Province, confirmed Ron's findings. The mutation could not be found in SARS, MERS, or bat cobra TG13, a bat coronavirus that was considered the original source of the new coronavirus with 96% similarities in genes, it said. This could be the reason why SARS-CoV-2 is more infectious than any other coronaviruses, Li wrote in a paper released on China RSIV on Sunday. Meanwhile, a study by French scientist Etienne Ducrolli at Aix-Marseille University, which was published in the scientific journal Antiviral Research on February 10th, also found a a furin-like cleavage site that is absent in similar coronaviruses. A researcher with the Beijing Institute of Microbiology Chinese Academy of Sciences in Beijing says the studies were all based on genetic sequencing. Whether the virus behaves as predicted will need other evidence, including experiments, said the researcher who asked not to be named. Of course, they don't want their name behind it. Surprise. The answer will tell how the virus makes us all ill, he said. Scientists understanding the new coronavirus has changed dramatically over the past few months. At first, the virus was not considered a major threat, with the Chinese Centers for Disease Control and Prevention saying that there was no evidence of human-to-human transmission. But that assumption was soon invalidated. As of Wednesday, there had been more than 81,000 confirmed infections around the world. Chinese researchers said drugs targeting the furin enzyme could have the potential to hinder the virus replication in the human body. These include a series of HIV-1 therapeutic drugs, such as a lot of crazy medications with weird names in Lee's study. This suggestion is in line with reports by some Chinese doctors who self-administered HIV drugs after testing positive for the new coronavirus, but there is as yet no clinical evidence to support this theory. No evidence whatsoever. There is also hope that the link to the furin enzyme could shed light on the virus's evolutionary history before it made the jump to humans. The mutation, which Ron's team described as an unexpected insertion, could come from many possible sources, such as the coronavirus found in rats or even a species of avian flu.
Okay, so
what is that saying?
So what it says is that scientists
got
from
no
all
freaking idea what's going on.
scientists from all over the world are discovering a couple commonalities. First and foremost, they really have no idea what this is, but they understand that this is something that was, as we know, created, and largely it was created on the chassis or the frame of the HIV virus. They are saying that once people who tested HIV negative took the vaccine, they are now testing HIV positive. Now they're calling it false positives. Frankly, I don't want to test positive for HIV anything, even if it is false. I'm sorry, this is me. However, look at the countries that are mentioned. We're talking about leading scientists in these countries: Australia, China, India, France. All these different countries are coming up with the same results. Well, we're not hearing this by and large in America.
What I'm taking away from that last article is it sounds like the new coronavirus bonds to your cells, mutates your cells like HIV does. So does that mean, like, once you have HIV, you have HIV, you can't get rid of it, right? Is that what they're saying about the new coronavirus? Once you have it, you have it, and if you're unhealthy at any point in your life, it's just going to decrease the longevity of life?
My understanding, this is my assumption, the answer to that is yes. How these things work, honestly, I don't know. I don't understand.
I'm just saying, based on that article, the way they're saying it mutates with your cells or bonds with your cells or whatever, they're saying it's the same way HIV does. We know the results of HIV. You can get HIV and live right up until the time you're not healthy anymore. And as soon as you get old or become not healthy, you die. I mean, you could die right away, but they've basically got to the point now where you can live with HIV, but you're not going to live into your 80s. You're going to live into your 50s or 60s. That's what I took away from that article. That article saying that if you get the new COVID, and it sounds like HIV, there are ways to not catch it, right? That's not the case with this. I mean, that scares the living shit out of me. Screw the vaccine.
It should. So let's continue down with some other things. Just a quick recap. Doesn't matter if you get vaccinated or not, you're still going to have to social distance. You're still going to have to wear the mask. There's a high probability confirmed by leading scientists across the world that you could contract the HIV virus by taking these vaccines. That's what we've...
Or false positive.
Whatever the case may be. I don't want it. Jason.
Allergy warning for Pfizer BioNTech vaccine after UK health workers with allergy history suffer reaction. CNN.
So this is a legit source.
Is it?
Yeah, well, it's not my conspiracy theory, tinfoil hat news.
People with a significant history of allergic reactions should not be given the Pfizer BioNTech coronavirus vaccine, UK health authorities said Wednesday, after 2 healthcare workers experienced symptoms after receiving a shot the day before. The precautionary advice was given after the pair responded adversely following their shots on the first day of the mass vaccination rollout in the UK, National Health Service England said Wednesday. The 2 staff members, who both carried an adrenaline auto-injector and had a history of allergic reactions, developed symptoms of anaphylactoid reaction after receiving the vaccine on Tuesday. Thousands overall were vaccinated in the UK on Tuesday, NHS England told CNN on Wednesday. As is common with new vaccines, the MHRA, or Medicine Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency, have advised on a precautionary basis that people with a significant history of allergic reactions do not receive this vaccination after 2 people with a history of significant allergic reactions responded adversely yesterday, said Stephen Powis.
One of the interesting things is there was a nurse that took this on TV.
Everyone's seen this.
And she passed out within 9 minutes of taking it. Was that contributed to the shot or not? I can't tell you, but I'll tell you what, keep that stuff away from me.
Because she saw you and thought, that man is good looking.
I mean, it's definitely...
I clocked her ring finger.
There's no doubt. She could have had a panic attack from being on TV. There's lots of things it could be, but the coincidence is she received the vaccine 9 minutes earlier.
So we not only Australia, China, India, France, now we have England. So right here, 6 countries.
Cheerio.
Yeah, Johnny.
Did head of Pfizer research say COVID-19 vaccine is female sterilization? In early December 2020, social media users shared rumors that the head of Pfizer research had warned the drug company's new COVID-19 vaccine would cause sterilization in women. The story was sourced from a blog called Health and Money News and referenced statements made by Michael Yeadon, who is not the head of Pfizer research. Yeadon did work for Pfizer, but left the company in 2011 according to his biographical information in the blog Lockdown Skeptics, to which Yeadon had contributed. His title at Pfizer was Vice President and Chief Scientist for Allergy and Respiratory. Yeadon and German physician Wolfgang Wodarg sent a letter to the European Medicines Agency calling on EMA to halt clinical trials of Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine in the European Union. In the letter, Wodarg and Yeadon stated that the Pfizer vaccine blocks a protein that is key in the formation of the placenta in mammals, and they claimed that it's possible women who receive the vaccine could become infertile. However, they did not state as fact that the vaccine causes sterility, as the Health and Money News headline suggests.
So we got another country, Germany, now, so there's 7.
Society known as the Pet Written.
Right. And so this is from Snopes, which very, very reliable fact-checking, but I love how they try to discredit this guy. He doesn't work there anymore. He has some pretty high credentials from what I can gather.
Had past tense.
Right. Like the guy loses all his medical knowledge and his expertise, but I love how it says that the vaccine could, right? It could. It's programming. It's basically saying...
We're not saying that it's impossible that these side effects could happen. We're just saying...
Well, I would like to add my little piece this week. This is an article that I think ties right into what we just read. Founder of vaccine safety website, ex-pharma insider, found dead. December 15th, 2020, LifeSite News. Brandy Vaughn, a former sales executive for the pharmaceutical company Merck, and the founder of LearnTheRisk.org, a website dedicated to educating people on the risks associated with vaccines, was apparently found dead by her 9-year-old son on December 8th. She's reported to have died from, are you ready for this? Gallbladder complications. You know anyone who ever died from gallbladder complications in recent years?
So what you're saying is coincidence? I think not.
Anyway, I just think that person being found dead, and this is a young lady again, she's 8-year-old son, she's a young lady. She also had a post that she put out last year that said, if something were to happen to me, it's foul play and you know exactly who and why. The actual post says, this is from December 1, 2019, so a year ago. This is like right when all this was happening, right? And now here she is dead a year later when the vaccine's actually being released. The post I wish I didn't have to write, but given certain sudden tragedies over the last couple years, I feel absolutely necessary to post these 10 facts, and please screenshot this for record. 1, I've never had any thoughts of taking my own life, not once ever, even before I had my son. 2, I have a huge mission in this life. Even when they make it very difficult and scary, I would never take my own life, period. 3, Basha means everything to me, and I would never leave him, period. I have sole custody, and he needs me as much as I need him. I would never think of leaving him for a second. 4, I've never been on an antidepressant. Anyway, what she's trying to do is cover her basis that she would never kill herself, so she doesn't wind up dead with two self-inflicted bullet
which is why she died from gallbladder.
Right?
So I'm sorry, and this is just me, and I've really just been struggling with this week because I sometimes feel like I'm the only person that sees these things. I'll give you an example. At Cleveland.com, I was reading an article and it said families tragic few moments with COVID, and it says there's these two, 62 and 65, they were in a hospital together, all their family was together holding hands, and then they died of COVID. And I'm reading this article, I'm thinking, wait a second, this doesn't feel right. So the married couple, both in their 60s, have COVID, and they're surrounded holding hands by their family in the hospital. Wait a second, when the hell has family been able to, in a COVID situation, be
not in a non-COVID situation? You can't.
Well, right. You know, even when I was hospitalized for a week this year, you know,
who came to your aid? That's right.
That-
Big guns over here.
Hey,
That's right.
I have a friend that we went to school with who was on life support, and they asked his parents to pull the plug because there was no brain activity, but they weren't allowed to go see him and say goodbye because of COVID. They're like, well, then he stays on life support until we come and say goodbye.
Exactly.
Like, are you kidding me?
No, exactly. And that's exactly my point. Like, I'm reading this stuff, I'm like, this doesn't track. This doesn't add up. So when Jason talks about that mark of the beast system, this is where it's all going to. And right now we have, as our count, just in this episode alone, 7 different countries. We have leading credentialed scientists that are saying, hey, this isn't right. You need to halt. You need to do testing. You need to A, B, and C. And I feel a great responsibility that we bring this up and talk about this, because I don't want anybody I know and love to take this under the false pretense it's going to save their life, and then they end up being, joking aside, more crud up than that monkey in Outbreak.
Well, there's so many coincidences here, right? So let me throw another coincidence out that people aren't necessarily talking about. COVID came on strong in January, February, March came on strong.
The Ides of March.
By May, we shut everything down, right? We reopen everything with rules. And all of a sudden, months before vaccinations come out, we hit all-time highs, right? Like, they build up the fear. They build up the fear about 6 weeks prior to the actual vaccinations being found. And what does that do? That pushes people, I just want to take it. I want this to be over with. I want better times. And that's what they're telling you, right? That's what they're telling you. Get on the train, right? What did they tell Germans? What did the Nazis tell Jews?
What did the Germans tell the Jews, right?
Bill, you can attest. We'll bring a point of reference in here.
Hey, John, that's weird. That glass looks half full to me.
Wow, now that you mention it, it is half full.
My unnamed wife will bring into the story, because you know that she has some contrary thoughts on all things COVID and masks.
Yeah.
My wife, for all her contrary thoughts, she's a nurse working at our local hospital. And she, even with all her belief systems on mask wearing and how important all those things are, when it comes to the vaccination, is terrified that she might be forced to take this vaccine.
Yeah,
because she is immunocompromised, and she has zero idea about the side effects and the repercussions that might come along with this. So even somebody who swims in a different school of thought typically when it comes to COVID and mask wearing, all these things, and thank God that she has enough common sense to not be dictated by fear and by speculation. And that's my thoughts as far as like the mark of the beast. I don't know. I'm probably more of I don't think this is the mark of the beast, but I do see how this could be used as conditioning or to test way. Like we test this out to see how it responds. We're putting that out there. Now we know how we can move forward with the mark of the beast system next time.
Well, it's preconditioning.
It's preconditioning. Yeah. But that's my concern. And when it comes to, like, we have no idea how many other medications now are lawsuit medications 20 years, 30 years later. They were life-saving medications 20 or 30 years ago, and now they're lawsuit medications because they, in fact, sure, they took care of your headache, but they caused you to bleed out your anus. The side effects almost always are more complicated than the simple cures that they produce.
This is why I say that our government wants to tell you they care about us. The reality is, what's really been proven out there is the main cause for the unhealthiness of this world is the food that we digest. The food that our government allows to be on those shelves that say it's safe, that aren't safe, okay? And then what they do is, once you ingest all that crappy food and you get sick, right, they put things in there to make you want to eat more.
Are you trying to take Taco Bell from me? Please tell me you're not.
No,
okay.
I'm just saying in general, right? And I'm not saying you can't have canned things and processed things. I'm saying, like, why are we ingesting chemicals? And do I do it? Yeah, my hands up, I do it. We're programmed to do it as kids, right? I mean,
here lies John Nibby's taken out by one too many chalupas.
Well, here's the thing. We want to try to move this along. We have a couple more things to say. First and foremost, if you look at the research, people, not only do they have comorbidities that have fatalities with this, but they're also low in zinc, vitamin D, like basic.
Because you don't get that stuff from that crap food.
Well, that's exactly
Boxed macaroni and cheese and hot dogs.
So I'm validating your point. So what we can do now as healthy people, increase our zinc, increase our vitamin D. Vitamin D we get naturally by going outside. Think about why they're trying to lock us down.
The vaccine, it's not a vaccine, first of all. Second of all, I said this already, there's no possible way, there's not major side effect from any of these vaccines. There's no possible way. There is proof. We have data, factual data, over 100 years or more of creating vaccinations to show you that you cannot create a vaccination for something in 9 months. You can't do it, folks. You can't.
Well, you could, but it's not safe.
Well, that's not a vaccination then. A vaccination doesn't cause you to be positive for HIV, okay?
It doesn't cause you to be
anything
sterile.
else. It doesn't cause you to be sterile. It doesn't cause you to pass out. I mean, come on, folks. Don't just swallow what these freaking doctors and stuff are saying. There's plenty of other scientists that are...
Blue pill.
There's plenty of other scientists, though.
The blue pill.
That's right, but there's plenty of other scientists who are telling you it's not safe. You have to slow down. Whoa. And all they did to push this vaccine, like I said, start throwing out the numbers of how bad everything's gotten over the last 3 months or whatever. That's what they're doing. And all that does is perpetuate the people wanting to take the vaccine.
Right, and that's this can all be over tonight if we just collectively said no. As we do, I'd like to bring in the idea of the spiritual aspect of this, because God is our creator. He created our body. We're now talking about our immune systems. And this is yet another reason why I've been having a really difficult time, by and large, the leadership in the church, their stance. Because you can scroll throughout the Bible and you can consistently read talking about God being a healer. And this is something that the fear-mongering, uneducated, unspiritually acute leadership of the church in America have somehow neglected. So I only have a handful of scriptures that I would hope John would read and share just to talk about a very brief sampling of the healing power of our God who created us.
I will be reading from Jeremiah 30:17. For I will restore you to health, and I will heal you of your wounds, declareth the Lord. From Isaiah 53, verses 2-6, from the New International Version, it reads like this. He grew up before him like a tender shoot, and like a root out of the dry ground. He had no beauty or majesty to attract us to him, nothing in his appearance that we should desire him. He was despised and rejected by mankind, a man of suffering and familiar with pain. Like one from whom people hide their faces, he was despised, and we held him in low esteem. Surely he took up our pain and bore our suffering, yet we considered him punished by God, stricken by him, and afflicted. But he was pierced for our transgressions, he was crushed for our iniquities. The punishment that brought us peace was upon him, and by his wounds we are healed. We all, like sheep, have gone astray. Each of us has turned to our own way, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. The complete Jewish Bible reads this way. In fact, it was our diseases that he bore, our pains from which he suffered.
Okay, you can go through so many scriptures about God healing us. The fact that churches have willingly complied with these globalist Luciferian decrees to shut down, to not allow God's people to gather as our first line of defense against this created chimera eugenics-based bioweapon is a absurdity. It is contrary to the belief system and the word of God.
It's an abomination.
Well, yeah, okay. I'd go with you on that.
I'm serious.
No, I was trying to be a little more calculated, but it is. So that's why
it makes me sick.
Johnny's giving me that look. Like,
it makes me totally sick when you look at the fact churches can't be open, but strip clubs can be. I mean,
to me, it all goes back to the idea of what Voltaire said. Those who will make you believe absurdities will allow you to commit atrocities. And I keep hearing everybody in the church talking about revival. Oh, revival, end time revival. You know what? How are you going to do that? You're too afraid to let people come in when there is this disease that God has all power and authority over. And I'm sorry, that's how I read it. Silence in the face of atrocity is not neutrality. Silence in the face of an atrocity is acquiescence. Samantha Power said that. No man can sit down, withhold his hands from the warfare against wrong, and get peace from acquiescence. Woodrow Wilson said that, who I actually don't really care for, but I think that still stands. Folks, we are now in the arena. You've been drug in the arena, whether you were in here with us or not before, because I genuinely believe at some point, especially if this new administration comes in, this is going to happen. This isn't tinfoil hat bill, conspiracy theorist bill. This is happening. So you need to decide where your line in the sand is. Are you going to take this and risk what we already see are legitimate health concerns? I'm sorry, HIV, a great possibility of sterilization. If you have any kind of allergies, whether it be peanut, bee stink, whatever the case may be, having that greatly affect you, when we realize that, with all due respect, the severity of COVID is nowhere near, like, to me, honestly, the getting an HIV, whether it be a false positive or not, seems to be way more disastrous than getting COVID. We're having at least a COVID positive test. So, Johnson, you've been rather silent this episode.
Trying to do my best. After listening to last week, how there were very few interruptions by John, I've tried to maintain my lane here.
Yeah, well, let me tell you what's really going on.
Over and over and over.
What's really going on is, as we read this, John's realizing there's no glass half full. This shit's hit hit the fan, folks.
Oh, there is always a glass half full. There's no reason to regurgitate the same information unless this is your first time listening to us, of which I state God is in control. More God.
More God.
We win. I've read the book. I know how it ends.
Well, listen, guys, thank you for listening. If this resonated with you, please share this with people.
Yeah.
Please get this information out. Please do your own research. There's so much research in this. There was like 10 articles I literally left out because I didn't want to hear from the
Right,
guy.
just let this be. What we're trying to do is kind of get you motivated to show you what's out there. Start looking, see what's out there. Find these articles. They're there. Real scientists, real factual data.
Outside of America.
Outside of America and in a lot of main countries through big sources and little sources alike. This isn't tinfoil, whatever.
Well,
This
and it's
is
not going
real.
away. This is real. We're up the creek without a paddle, and this isn't going away. You can't put your head in the sand and wish this away.
Nope.
Every single one of us are going to be confronted with, are you or are you not going to take this or another form of this vaccine?
I would say, to quote the sage prophet, Mr. Vanilla Ice, just stop, collaborate, and listen. Ice is back with the brand new mission. No, use your head. Don't just jump in. Because someone tells you to jump in, don't jump in. Use your head. Do some research. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm not even necessarily saying that Willie Will is right. What I'm saying is that there's not enough of a pathway to prove that what these people who constantly contradict and argue themselves are right either. Use your head. Check the facts. Do your homework. At the end of the day, if you've done all the research, you've done all your homework, and you feel comfortable, sure, take the plunge, whatever. But just check yourself a little bit before you just hastily run into a situation where you take a pill that helps with bloody noses that also produces gonorrhea. I mean, it just weigh the advantages, pros, and cons. And right now, what we're saying is there's just not enough of a pathway. There's not enough of something to track to prove that this is really worth it.
Right.
And we've also stated that 2.5 years was that was the shortest time before that they vetted out a process
that didn't work.
I'm not saying that maybe this vaccination is fantastic, but we have no way to know that. This has not been properly vetted. There's no proper pathway. There's no possible way that they can say that this is 100% absolutely the best way to go. They don't know. It is the practice of medicine, so we try and extend a little bit of grace there, but the fact that they're pushing this so hard, the fact that they're wanting to mandate it, that's what should terrify you.
Well, and then look who's controlling it. That's the other thing that should terrify.
All the heads of Pfizer said they're not going to take it, right? They're going to let the other people take it. Also, they're going to let minorities take this one first.
Because they want to be fair.
Is this medication coming from the same place that started the whole population control to begin with?
Eugenics.
That released it? I mean, I think COVID was released, and no one can convince me contrary, that it was population control because of what it attacks. It attacks the elderly and the immunocompromised.
Right, and if
so
you're
the same people that are pushing this are the ones who are giving us the pills to, we started this. This will make it better.
Well, and if you're a minority right now, this should be concern you. You should look into this.
Look up the Tuskegee experiment.
Yeah,
that's all I'm going to say.
Look
up the Tuskegee experiment, and throughout history, look up what's happened in Africa. Look up what's happened in South America. Jewish people in the last century, minorities are always the ones that they use eugenics, these globalists test this stuff out on. So go back to the Nuremberg Code, go back to what we read about the Hippocratic Oath.
All they're trying to do is, just like they told the Germans and Nazis, told the Jewish people is, we're going to take you to a great place. They're just telling you this is going to do great things. We're being fair to you. Be nervous. So what they're saying is, let's don't try to save as many lives as possible. Let's be as fair as we can, which is just a big ass lie, folks.
This vaccine's going to be called the wrong Doug.
They don't know what this vaccine does, and they're trying to stick it to the minorities, is what we're saying. They've come right out and said it. They're liars. They've always been liars.
I'll leave one last literary term, and you guys can take this for what you will. These people are the veritable Georges, and they think we're a Lenny sitting in a field petting a bunny as they got the gun pointed to the back of our head.
Right.
So, of mice and men, if you don't know.
Just look at the flowers. Walking Dead.
But nonetheless, make sure you subscribe, make sure you share. We're doing well on Rumble. We're doing okay on YouTube if we're still not banned. Apple, Spotify, Flawed Inc., Flawedcast, Flawedcast CLE. Our website is flawedinc.com. That's all updated. Any of you would like a shirt, let us know, because we're trying to price this stuff out and see what the demand would be. We're still on all social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, doing very well on Parler, doing very well on Gab. So we just want to thank you guys for that, and Happy New Year.